Spotlight Radio presents Dr. George Mumford. Spotlight Radio recently had a sit-down interview with Dr. George Mumford, astronomer and educator who has served as dean at the College of Liberal Arts, Tufts University, culminating in achieving the title of Professor Emeritus, Department of Physics and Astronomy.
I am George Mumford. I am an Emeritus Professor of Astronomy and Mathematics from Tufts University. I got started in astronomy years back, actually when I was in prep school. I went to Milton Academy and they had a small observatory there, and I enjoyed going out and using the telescope. I usually got joined at night by classmates who liked to come out and smoke because the roof pulled back and there was no way to catch the odor from the cigarette butt, which was illegal totally at that time. In any event, I went on from there to work a couple of nights or a couple of summers at the Oak Ridge Station of the Harvard College Observatory in Harvard, Massachusetts, and got my taste of fairly large telescopes there. And went on from there to become a astronomy major at Harvard. I got through Harvard and moved on to University of Indiana. Spent a couple of years there before I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, where I studied under Alexander Vysotsky and got my doctorate doing work with the variable stars that Vysotsky was interested in. For some reason, I got a job at Harvard, and I think it was I'm not really sure how it happened, but I think my mentor at Harvard, Bart Bach, spoke to Niels Wessel, who was president of Tufts, and suggested that I might be an interesting candidate for what was then their Department of Mathematics, where an astronomy course was taught. During my stay at Tufts, the Department of Physics took on astronomy, so I ended up actually after a stint of dean and a few other things at Tufts as a emeritus professor in the physics department.
Professor, how did you decide to pursue a career in astronomy?
I guess I got started in astronomy because of a desire to stay up late nights. And I also lived on a hilltop in outside of Dover, Massachusetts. And occasionally the nights were nice and clear, and I could get out with my little telescope and look at the planets and look at the moon and look for nebulae and have a nice time doing that kind of thing. And the other reason I think I got into astronomy was because in my math class at school, I found that if I could come up with large numbers, the teacher would change the topic. Today, those large numbers are usually found in economics, but in those days, it was in astronomy, talking about millions of light years to these galaxies or that, and things of that nature. And that kind of intrigued the math class, and it also intrigued the teacher enough to change topics and get me going on something that we were pretty much interested in. But it was the large numbers thing that really I enjoyed. And learning how to write them and this kind of thing was great fun.
How do you view the current state of astronomy?
I think what's really happened recently is that astronomy has turned into a frontier research zone of physics. And it's amazing to me the change in the size of the audiences that are attending astronomical society functions. It used to be that we could fill a small hotel on Nantucket. Now they have to take it in a city like New York City, and there'll be maybe 9,000 or 10,000 people trying to come in to listen at least to some of the papers that are given. It's really extraordinary to me how it's changed into a great research area for physicists.
What was your favorite part of being an astronomer?
My own love was actually using a telescope, getting out in the night sky and making observations. And I became really involved at in a research project that had to do with the so-called nova-like variable stars.
Tell us about some of the more interesting features you have witnessed during your observations.
Turns out that most of these common novae are very close binary stars, two stars going around each other in a period of about a couple of days or even less. And they're spewing matter off that builds up between them and all of a sudden has enough energy in it to burst into a great glow of light. And this is what caused the brightness of the star, and then it diminishes. And what you have really is two stars spinning around each other or revolving around each other in a couple of days or much less. And that has been one of the more interesting features, I think, of what goes on in the local galaxy. I've been a person who's been looking at stars, not far out parts of space, most of my career.
Who are some of your mentors?
Well, my major mentor was Bart Bach, the Dutch astronomer at Harvard, who was interested in galactic structure. Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin was a great favorite of mine. She was the one who actually brought me back from Indiana to help her assist in a summer school course at Harvard at one point, which was a real startup in my career. I remember she had a husband named Sergei Gaposchkin. He was a Russian, and he used to get together with my mentor from the University of Virginia, Alexander Vysotsky, who was another Russian. And Sergei would always talk about the women astronomers present in the terms of heavenly bodies, using Russian to Vysotsky, and Vysotsky got very annoyed about this. But anyhow, that was some of the humor that goes on at some of the astronomical meetings.
What part of astronomy are you most interested in?
I was more interested in celestial mechanics and in the motions of things than I was really in their composition, which is really what the physicists go in for.
Can you explain celestial mechanics to us?
Well, celestial mechanics is about the motion of heavenly bodies. It's, the motion of the Earth and the Moon, the motion of the Earth-Moon system about the Sun, describing mathematically and predicting where things are going to end up and so on. It's one of the early fields of Kepler's equations came from that. Copernicus, and it's one of the early parts of astronomy that was used to predict where the planets are going to be, and in the course of a year and that kind of thing. The alignment of the planets and go from what's in the morning sky to what's in the evening sky and this kind of thing.
Tell us about your tenure at Tufts University.
While I was at Tufts, I became interested in college administration. And I didn't ever see myself as being chairman of the Department of Physics and Astronomy, because the physicists would never have me as a chairman. And I didn't see that happening in a math department as me becoming chairman of the Department of Mathematics, because I wasn't a mathematician. So I got interested in the possibility of working as a dean, and I kind of underdeaned with a colleague in the geology department named Charlie Stearns. And when he resigned as dean of the Liberal Arts College, I was offered the job and became Dean of the College of Liberal Arts at Tufts. This was a kind of nice position because it gave me a overall view of the Tufts curriculum. And I think one of the things that I realized it was nice I could do was try and put together programs that used the expertise of various departments, such as in chemistry and biology, or physics and mathematics, leading to a concentration field that combined the top parts of two departments rather than just what an individual department could offer. So one of my real contributions, I think, to Tufts and to higher education was creation of what we call the plan of study, which was an individualized major for a student where he or she would go out and find a couple of people in different departments to serve as their mentors, and then would create an in-depth combined program to serve as a concentration for college major. That I think was one of the big things I did in my career.
Professor, where is the future of astronomy headed?
I don't know, there's some interesting things out there in terms of black holes and what's going on, and whether there are other universes, and I think it's a great field to get into and to see where your interests will push you, and where the background physics that you have will take you. I think there's a lot of stuff to find out yet.
Any final thoughts?
Well, I think I was lucky to come along when I did. Things have certainly changed. Boy, I'm glad I didn't have to change my career to keep up with them. I hope I helped make some of those changes come. My recommendation to you youngsters coming along is study mathematics. Boy, it's important to get a good grounding in that subject, and it's a whale of a thing to work with. Take care.
Spotlight Radio would like to thank Dr. George Mumford for taking the time to share his knowledge and expertise with us. This has been a Spotlight Radio production.